Welcome to the Vegan Transformation. I'm your host, Angela Crawford, a psychologist and transformational coach and vegan lifestyle educator. And I'm really passionate about the power of a plant-powered vegan lifestyle to transform us in mind, body, and spirit. And I hope to inspire you with the interviews and other information that I share on this channel. And today I'm really excited to introduce my guest, Angela Fischetti, who is the founder and CEO of Boomer and Beyond Wellness. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes.
And she's an amazing person. And I met her, it's been at least a few years ago, more than that probably. And partly because I was doing research for my book and she was one of the people I interviewed and I got to learn more about her and we've stayed connected and feel a special connection. Maybe that first name has something to do with it.
I think
But
so.
so happy you're here, Angela.
I'm very happy to be here and honored as well. But this is just really lovely given the sort of journey that our meeting together was basically being in the same chat rooms type of thing. And I think was a couple of mutual organizations that we were involved with. And then that interview and I feel like we've grown to know each other even more so, excuse me, from our individual appearances on different podcast shows and learning about each other this way, but then also how we write to each other.
Yes, exactly. And encourage each other because we're both, both on a journey, I guess,
Yeah,
both caring about making a positive difference for others and for the world, really. So in each of our own
absolutely.
way. So one of the things that I'd love to ask to start out is about your vegan and whole food plant-based journey. And so to just share whatever you want to that lets us know, like kind of how did you get to where you are now with veganism and being plant exclusive in your diet?
You have several hours. Okay.
Yes, and you can do the version you think is most helpful here.
Absolutely. Well, it began in 1987. It was right after I read John Robbins' Diet for a New America. And I
I read
was
that book
all
too. Oh,
I don't know how many people he has helped transition from the sad approach to diet and lifestyle to whole food, plant-based and vegan. And basically, I have been an animal lover since a child. We had a beautiful dog named Lassie, of course, because I'm going to be 67. So every 5-year-old had a dog named Lassie. It didn't matter
yeah.
what they looked like. Okay. So but we went through maybe about a decade. Then after Lassie passed, we didn't have any animals. And then I was living at home at the time, and I was about 19 or 20, and a cat appeared in our house. We just came in one evening and there she was on the floor already in the apartment, in the house. Oh, I should say apartment really, because we shared the apartment downstairs. And ever since then, since I'm about 19 or 20, I'm a feline lover. So fast forward to 87, I came out of my room and I saw her. It was that cat. And her name was Honey Bunny, because I'm kind of nerdy about the names of my animals. And but I took one look at her and I just thought, that's it. I can't do this. It was interesting because the book was given to me by my then best friend, who did not read it, unfortunately, and I wish she did for her own health. But so I became vegetarian. And then within about 3 or 4 years, I want to say approximately 1990, 1991, I actually became vegan, but I became raw vegan.
Mhm.
And I got in because there was this really cool hip moving going on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in Alphabet City, with raw vegans.
Oh,
And I was like, I'm in. I'm sold. There was even an old cable TV show online called Accent on Wellness, and Matthew Grace was the host. Now, check this out. Back then, he was a raw vegan personal trainer who hosted this cable TV show that was on every Saturday. And I watched it and I was like, what is this? And that's how it came to be. I started going to meetings in Manhattan, Accent on Wellness meetings, and that Matthew Grace who actually cured his own MS through a raw vegan diet. Um, he was hosting all of these get-togethers and what have you, and lectures. So I was raw vegan for about 5 years. Um, but there were times in my life, Angela, where maybe something traumatic, dramatic. We all have these moments in our lives, and we have more than one. All right. If we've been around long enough, we have more than one. And so I found that when something traumatic would take place, I would revert back to vegetarian. And it was always cheese, the
Mm,
pleasure trap food, cheese. I have an Italian heritage. I come from an Italian heritage. Cheese was a big deal, particularly Parmesan and mozzarella. And so it would be that would reoccur over the years with attempting to live a purely vegan diet and lifestyle. And the thing that would help me would be my background in fitness, because it was kind of simultaneous where I became vegan at 1991 with becoming a professional personal trainer. It
mhm,
was also very odd back then to be a female personal trainer as opposed to being an aerobics teacher.
mm.
Right. And so I lived in Brooklyn. I was up against the big guys. And back then, you know that a lot of them would inject the juice, right? It would be steroids. And they were not happy to see this female trainer. And I was even odder because of how I ate.
Mm,
And I worked at a gym in Brooklyn Heights that is still there. And it was ginormous. It was 75,000 square feet. It had squash courts, this, that. It was fantastic. And but I found that when it came time for me to eat, I had to go hide because people were less than kind. They were not
mm,
curious. Now it's more like curious, and also they
mhm.
want to learn about it. Back then, it was freaky.
Yeah.
Why are you eating grapes? You're a trainer. You're supposed to be having meat. So for me, it was a lot better to go retreat
Mhm.
in the squash court when nobody was there and just eat in peace, you know. So it was interesting that way.
Took a lot
Um,
of commitment to stick to that lifestyle under those circumstances.
I guess so when you relay it to me like this, because I never really thought about that. But yeah, I when I was feeling my best and I was able to carry on, I mean, there was another 5 year sequence of being raw vegan and these things. I just kind of as I got to feel better after each sort of dramatic event,
So you would
you
have
know,
sort of a quote unquote relapse of eating cheese.
yes,
And,
okay.
and how would
And
you feel when you were eating the cheese?
oh, it was terrible. I mean, it was more like it was sort of satisfying a flavor on the tongue, right? A taste bud, but that would be it. And always resulted in some kind of weight gain. And and that I would say that first time that I relapsed was when I was getting a divorce.
Mm.
Right. So, it's like, okay, now I understand, you know what I mean? But I think with the consistency of exercise, and in particular, both strength training and rebounding, these two things have been in my life probably. I mean, I started working out in gyms when I was in my late teens, in female gyms, all female gyms. And I'm going to be 67. So it's a lot of years. It's at least 50 years of hanging out in a gym. And with with the diet and lifestyle, whole food, plant-based, now that came to be, I want to say about a decade later, where I was really solid with it and felt like There is no turning back. I have completely neuro adapted at this point. But
Was
there
there
have
anything
been
that brought you to eating like more whole food version of vegan?
absolutely, because there was a point in my journey where at one point it was the passing of my father,
Mm,
and the passing of my father was very, very near 9/11.
mm,
And where I was working in Brooklyn was in Brooklyn Heights, and it's one stop away from the World Trade Center. So therefore, our gym was filled with a lot of people who would come there to work out but go into Manhattan because we had Brooklyn prices for the gym, and they would just go one subway stop. But the fact is I knew about 30 people who passed that day on 9/11.
mm,
Right, exactly. And it was because they were members, students at the gym. There was a special fireman of mine who I found out, he was gone. So it's these moments in life, right, that would throw me off, but it was always coming back by way of movement, always to be able to reclaim myself. Ultimately, when I had gotten, we're going to fast forward quite a number of years here now to about 2017. So I went back to school in 2015. I was 57 and I went back for massage therapy. And I went to what was then considered to be the best private massage school in Florida. And I had been on medications, psychotropic drugs for, I want to say, about 25 to 28 years, because through one of these depressive states, I got diagnosed with what was then called manic depression. And Patty Duke, the actress, made that famous at the time, as well as the medication lithium.
mm,
And then I had gotten cycled on and off of all of these psychotropics for the next 2.5 decades. And finally, when I was in school, um, I started hearing voices,
gosh,
right? And it was while going to school. And I told no one other than one teacher. And she would know that if I approached her and said, I think I should go home, she would be like, okay, go, you know. And
mhm,
what she allowed me to do pre-pandemic
mhm.
was she would turn on FaceTime so that I wouldn't lose training hours
I see.
toward my license so that I could attend class. And finally, one of the colleagues, one of the fellow students, approached me and she said, do you ever think these side effects, what you're going through are side effects of those drugs you're taking? And I just was like, huh. And so I started looking them up through the National Institute of Health online. And I started seeing all of these side effects of these psychotropic drugs. And I decided, and I'm going to say this, but I'm going to tell your viewers, do not do what I did, because it takes so much physical strength to be able to handle this. I weaned myself off the drugs. I took 2.5 years. I definitely crashed at times in the process, but I kept working out during it because I saw that science was starting to go toward, hey, strength training is now showing to be very beneficial with people who are bipolar, with people who come from depressive backgrounds, that it's very helpful. And I kept holding on to that, and also my sense of how I felt. And so ultimately, I became, I want to say, whole food plant exclusive,
Mhm.
SOFAs free, which means salt, oil, flour, alcohol, and sugar free by 2017, 18, when I found Chef AJ
I see.
online.
Yeah.
I found
And
Chef
to
AJ.
clarify that Chef AJ has kind of pioneered that approach.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and it was, and in my mind, because I was from decades prior also diagnosed with anorexia, bulimia, bulimorexia. I put myself into a rehab. It was in
Mhm.
1993, but
Mhm.
it was a yoga-based rehab. And so it was so far ahead of the curve. I read about it in the yoga journal. And this is where I learned about yoga therapy,
Mhm.
massage therapy. It was run by MDs and RNs. It was on a farm in Arizona. And we had to, but they were all yoga Sikhs from the Kundalini line of yoga. So that's where I got exposed to truly the healing power of movement of the body in the heat of the sun. We would be in a barn, unair conditioned, 3 times a day. It was required 2 or 3 times a day to take the classes. It was expected of us to attend all of the 12-step programs. This was a rehab for addicts of all kinds that I
Mhm.
was exposed to, but it affected me to this day in my life. And I'm so grateful because I think that's part of why I was able to recover from what I recovered. And they did not give us medications. They gave us personalized herbal protocols, and we ate vegetarian and vegan food. So you see, the influence goes back decades, right? And
Sure.
that's why when I got diagnosed in 2017 at the end of school, prior to getting my license for massage therapy, I'm remembering this. We had Hurricane Irma down here in Florida, and we had to evacuate in South Beach because that was considered the eye. So I took myself and my two cats, and we went to a hotel. But I started um, collapsing. It
Mm.
would, I would just, I would get this like stabbing knife, hot stab into my abdomen and just fall to the floor. And
Mhm.
one time I did it in front of my neighbor, and he was like, you know, and as it turned out, when I finally decided to go see a medical doctor, because I waited until I got my license, I was like, I knew I had stuff going on, but I wanted to be licensed. So I went to see my medical doctor and got tested, and it turned out that I had really large masses in my uterus. They were ovarian cysts, and
Mm.
two were on the left side that were the size of grapefruits, and one on the right side, the size of an orange. I had endometrial hyperplasia, which is like a thickened uterine lining. I got diagnosed with subclinical hypothyroid. I got diagnosed with the osteoporosis of a 90-year-old. This is all in one setting, one meeting with the doctor.
And where did
I
this fall with the other stuff that you were mentioning, where
about the drugs, because it
like
dates
going
back
off the
to,
medications and all of that?
right. It dates back now to the drugs, because what my endocrinologist said to me, I got diagnosed with 8 masses. 6 out of the 8 were endocrine system related. So my endocrinologist at the time said, because I had 2 thyroid nodules and one very enlarged lymph node in my throat,
Mhm.
she said, she goes like this, you know what you got going on over here? She said that we know that lithium causes thyroid nodules. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, but I was on it for 2 years,
Mhm.
from like 93 to 95. How is this even possible?
Mm.
She's like, we now know. So I asked her, I said, I have 6 out of 8 masses that are endocrine system related. Is it possible it's related to all those medications I was on for 25 years or whatever? And she went like this.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow. And yet you still prescribe that stuff.
Wow.
Lithium.
No, as I hear you, I mean, like, so first of all, just for those listening, neither of us are saying go off your meds,
That's
like
right.
obviously, work with your doctor if you are
That's
on
right.
medications and seek guidance. But what an amazing experience for you to realize that perhaps being on meds all that time was playing a role in some major medical issues and other symptoms. And it sounds like you took your time weaning off of it. I mean, I
Definitely.
don't.
Definitely,
Obviously
because
for a listener, do it. If you wean off of a med, do it with your doctor's guidance and
right.
support, because it can be dangerous. It certainly, like, if people do it too dramatically or.
Can I add to that that the thing that was missing with me, all
Mhm.
right, and I do blame the clinic that I was going to, is they never tested me. They didn't test me. They never put me through anything to test my liver, because it turned out I have a tumor in my liver as well. It's like they
So no
tested
one was looking at
nothing.
the effects of the medication on you,
Exactly,
or like what
exact.
levels they were in your system. Yeah.
And that's part of sort of getting caught up in the medical mill, but then you get forgotten about, right?
Yeah.
And the other person that I must mention who helped me in this whole process is Dr. Frank Sabatino.
Yeah.
Because when I was having those, I was collapsing from the spasms of the ovarian cysts. In the back of my mind, Angela, I thought, if I can't do this on my own, if I don't get enough of a response from going SOFAS free, and I went back to weightlifting, and I went back to rebounding, because I stopped weightlifting for a long time. And as soon as I was told I had osteoporosis, I was like, oh, I've got to get checked that I could get back to weights. And if I can, that's what I've got to do. Okay. Um, I was watching one of Chef AJ's ultimate weight loss summits,
Mhm.
right? And I was multitasking. And it was the first time that I had heard about Dr. Frank Sabatino. And I always thought, if I can't do this on my own, I need to water fast. Lo and behold, he's on there talking about water fasting. But the thing that blew my mind was that when he said where he was located, I was like, that's a 60 or 70-mile drive for me. I'm
Yeah.
going. If
Yeah.
I need to do this, I'm going to do it with him. And then it turns out that he is so knowledgeable about weightlifting that I was able to talk with him about, I want to do this and this and this, and I want to make sure. And it was symbiotic, and it was absolutely meant to be that I would be listening that day. And I followed this up with a 10-day water fast ultimately, because about a year after that, I couldn't take it anymore with the pain. And I was not going to have a hysterectomy. They were dropping all this stuff. They're going to remove my body
So this
parts,
was a supervised water fast with
This
Dr.
was a
Sabat.
10-day, what the process is a 10-day supervised water fast with Dr. Sabatino in
Wow.
Deerfield Beach. And it's actually a 16-day process, because you have to juice for a couple of days
Sure,
before,
yes.
water fast, and then refeed properly. And
So yeah, so what happened with all this? So you weaned off your medications, you did a water fast supervised,
mhm.
um, and then the getting back on, and you were also changing your diet. How did all this affect you? What happened?
Well, I went for ultrasounds 1 week to the day after my water fast was over. And they came back with, well, that right cyst is out. It's gone. And also, they said no longer had endometrial hyperplasia, yet to
Mhm.
understand that that's not the only, but one of the markers for thyroid, pardon me, uterine cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I also had bad vegan blood work, by the way, with that original onslaught of diagnoses. All of that got cleared up, absolutely cleared up. I was no longer subclinical hypothyroid. So I had a tremendous response
Wow.
to that one water fast. And I will tell you something,
And along with your clean
because,
diet, I imagine,
yes,
on
I was
top of
just going to say, because I continued the diet to this day, right? I was only told back in November of 2023 that the two ginormous cysts sitting on that left ovary, they're gone. I called Dr. Sabatino right after that and I said, hey, is it possible after all these years with the water fast? He said, yeah, it's very possible that that's why they're gone, because you continued the diet and lifestyle, you continued the training, the exercise,
yeah.
all of it. And
Mhm.
so to me, it's just
Yeah.
phenomenal how this works. I mean, how they wanted to remove my body parts. And I just was just so
Yeah.
convinced this can happen. Now, let me tell you why I was so convinced, because I understood that the lymphatic system If these cysts were to burst, are they poisonous? Well, they already can tell from the scans the type of cysts they were. So I was already told they're not poisonous. So if they burst, what's going to happen is the lymphatic system will suck it up, pull it up, and it will just clean it right out of the body. So that's why it's so important to blend exercise, movement with your whole food plant-based diet because they support each other. In my case, I exercise a lot, right? And I'll be 70 in 3 years. Okay. So how I recover, how quickly I recover is absolutely related to two things: how I execute the exercise, proper form and alignment, because this way I won't create an inflammatory process known as an injury, right? And I have to support that then with the food,
Mhm.
because the food will then help determine as well. There won't be any inflammatory processes kicking in, and it will support me being able to go right back out and do my exercise the next day instead of being, oh, I'm wiped out. Now, on occasion, do I take a day off from it? Absolutely.
From the
I am
exercise.
today.
Yeah.
Today, I lifted weights for my lower body.
Mhm.
Yesterday, I did upper body, and because I thought, well, maybe I'll do like a total body, but different exercises today on the upper. Forget it. My
Mhm.
biceps, everything is just muscularly sore today on the
Mhm.
upper body because I did different stuff. I'm working with kettlebells now, so it's
Mhm.
different, it's unique, and it's also like a game, and it's a lot of fun for me.
Mhm.
But today I was like, yeah, no, you're doing your lower body. So you got to be aware of when you absolutely do need to just chill out. It's okay. It's okay to have that day in between, but you don't want to stretch that out. But my whole point is the two biggest pillars of lifestyle medicine, at least obviously from where I sit, would be both purposeful
Mhm.
movement, as Dr. Akil Taher calls it,
Mhm.
and also a whole food plant
Yeah.
exclusive diet and
No,
lifestyle.
that's a beautiful example. And I think, we become, many of us become vegan for reasons of compassion, and that's
Right.
super important because compassion is something many of us, I guess, have gotten disconnected from. But we
Mm,
also need to include compassion for ourselves and
that's right.
our physical being, because we're not going to be able to show up for others if we're not taking care of us. And what you've really found is that in eating vegan, eating foods that are clean, that nourish your body, that are anti-inflammatory, lots of fruits, vegetables, and kind of whole foods, that nourishes you. And it's also just been part of your healing journey that, and I get the water fast kind of, and again, I say supervised just so people know that the water fasts are supervised by medical doctors, like Dr. Sabatino, but it propelled your healing process even more quickly, more
Yeah.
extremely. And then the way you're eating, you're not putting, I guess, inflammatory food in your body that would kind of stop your healing. And so you're continuing the process. And then you find that it synergizes with your exercise to like live a really healthy whole life. And you have other pillars too. And that, I know you try to avoid substances that are harmful to you, that you have a sense of purpose, you honor meaningful connections with people. All of those are important pillars of your well-being that you incorporate, so.
I'm very blessed with that. I mean, this sounds odd, but I'm going to say it. One of the best things that happened for me from the perspective of community was the pandemic,
Mhm.
because you people don't live like this. People
Yeah.
look at me like pe- people over here where I live, like, oh my God, she uses her apartment, and
Mhm.
it's not a normal apartment, because that's my apartment, folks. And back there
Yeah,
is my
your
weights.
workout
It's my
studio.
workout studio. So when I do my videos and stuff, this is it. And other people think it's weird. I understand, but I live my life according to my ethics. It's founded in I'm an ethical vegan first, But boy, did I grow to understand the importance of how, how it you for me, I just have to be whole food plant exclusive because this is what supports my choices. It's also, of course, still not harming the animal. And
No.
then as I got older and the longer and longer I've gotten into this lifestyle, I recognize the impact on our environment, the impact on planet Earth, and how
Mhm.
we're all here sharing it together. How do we find that sense and place of ahimsa,
Yeah.
nonviolence? And my work in yoga has been profound for me, Angela, with keeping this, because this is not easy to keep a calm, stable brain.
No.
I I'm Aries, and my background is Italian, and I'm from Brooklyn. So it's kind of like we go from 0 to 60 in like this, right?
Yeah.
And I find that even if I'm really angry and pissed off about something, or just devastated, I feel like it's kind of like, well, I have my choice of movement today.
Mm.
Today I'm pissed off. I'm going to lift weights. And then at the end of the weightlifting, I'm like, oh, what was I angry about?
Yeah.
And that's, and then when it comes to yoga, there are times where it's just like, oh, maybe something has happened and I just am sobbing while doing yoga, but I'm moving and I'm allowing, it's like so much of it coming out from the heart chakra, and doing the chest openers and just allowing the body to stretch and release through the emotion instead of hindering the body. That's how I see it. And I see it like when I move my body, I get to express myself. And for me, what more can complement each other than weightlifting and yoga? It's just like the yin and the yang, but also to find, there are times in my life when I hear about people who are so close to me, or maybe I just really appreciate and I don't really know them very well, but I'm affected by them and their teachings, and something happens in their life. There are times when I will dedicate my yoga practice to these individuals. There are times when I might be weightlifting and it's like, well, I can't do that one more repetition. And then I think of that person and I'm like, give it up, give up your efforts to something greater than you, than your own personal discomfort. I never put myself in a place of injury willingly.
Yeah.
Okay. But to me, that's where all of this is connected. It's ahimsa. It's looking at the world through kindness and offering to each other. And I do believe many in our plant-based community come from this same space, which is why we are compelled to share our stories and to have YouTube channels, and in my case, present fitness. I want people who can't afford a gym
Mhm.
but have chronic health issues and maybe have experienced some of the same things that I have. I want them to have a space and a place to go to that honors them and their experiences.
Mm.
And it's very hard to find that online because it's all about youth. I get it. It's exciting, right? And the stronger you are and the faster you are. But because of how I was treated in my process, all they wanted to do was cut me.
Mm.
And you know how many times I heard, you don't need your uterus. And I just
Mhm.
thought, you know what, dudes, I'll, I'll make up
Yeah.
my mind about that. Right.
Yes.
And it's very much founded in condescension and patriarchy. And I want others to know that there is a way to train, exercise, and do yoga safely, effectively, and with self respect founded in how you feel in the moment in time. And that's for me what my work is all about, is a mission of saying, hey, here it is. I'm gonna hand you stuff because if you don't know where to find it, and I don't want people out there
Yes.
not feeling less than their best about themselves because of other voices telling them, you can't, don't, you should be afraid. And I'm saying to them,
Yeah.
you can you can reframe all of this. If you're in a chair with your health, if you're in a chair because of your work all day long, I'm going to show you how to use that chair as a tool to make you healthier,
Yeah.
because there's the message out there, sitting is the new smoking. That's very nice, but it's a little elitist too. And I see it and I go, well, but they can't help it. So
Yeah.
now I'm going to say, all right, let's use it. Let's have some fun in that chair. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying, Angela? It's
Yeah.
perspective, and it's not getting caught up in the shoulds and what you're supposed to do. It's just be you. And let's
Yeah.
explore being
Sounds
you
very
the best you can
empowering,
be.
and
Yes, yes. That's how I feel about it. And
yeah.
that's where I'm at this point in my life. And that's why it drives me to put the message out there.
Well, this is a great time to transition to share a little bit about what you do and also like,
Thank
how
you.
people can, find what you offer and what you do as well. So just share a little bit about your work
Thank you.
and anything you want to share about how people can also find your work and what you do.
Thank you so much. That's very sweet of you. Yes, it's out there for you. So it's called Boomer and Beyond Wellness. The website is boomerandbeyondwellness.com.
And I
But
will put
the
this in the description too. So
Thank you. I
someone
appreciate
misses it.
that.
Yeah.
And I'm on the socials, in particular Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And the YouTube channel is boomerandbeyondwellness.com. Right now, what I'm doing is this is new for me. So my web developer and I are putting together a newsletter that I'm going to be publishing monthly, and it's going to come out within probably about the next 10 days, the first edition. So what I've done is I created a poll on my YouTube channel within the community tab. If you're interested in subscribing to the newsletter, then go to this poll and answer this question for me. Because what I did is I presented the poll with 5 or 6 choices to
Mm.
thank people for opting in to subscribe to the newsletter. I am going to create a video, whether it be strength training, yoga, whatever you vote on, as the thank you video that will be exclusive to those who subscribe to the newsletter.
Oh, that's
And the news,
awesome.
thank you. And the newsletter is going to be about more workouts and yoga videos. It's also going to be with I have dear chef friends and colleagues, because I don't cook. I don't know how to cook. And so and so I've asked them, "Hey, could I feature some of your recipes, plant-based recipes in my newsletter?" And they're all like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem," which is really fun. And also I'm going to do stuff like fitness tips and tricks, and pardon me, would be animal and pet rescue. I want to have a whole thing on that. So I would just, if people would like to subscribe to that and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I do offer my services virtually for personal training, obviously for older adult training, 50 and above. And I have 60-minute sessions. I also have 30-minute consultation sessions, and then 10-minute have it your way workout sessions, because I have a separate playlist on my YouTube channel that is it's dedicated. It's a chronic concerns corner. So this
Oh,
is where I teach one exercise, only one exercise in each short video, because it's my feeling that people can DIY the approach. They can
yeah.
create their own exercise protocol, one exercise at a time. I present the exercises 3 ways. One, without any external resistance for those of you who do have chronic concerns and maybe new to exercise or new to strength training. Then I also present it maybe with a band or tubing, or maybe wrist weights or something like that.
Mhm.
And then I'll show it with dumbbells or kettlebells, that type of thing. But they get to choose, because people with chronic concerns, Angela, know what they can and can't do.
Yeah.
And I want to help them with the can because we get really good about what we can't do. We get so tunnel visioned because we're protecting ourselves.
Yeah.
Maybe a lot of people have gotten injured with improper strength training.
Yeah.
This way, it's like giving themselves permission to do it whichever way
Yeah.
they need to. Oh, I can
Mhm.
choose that exercise because I can do that. And that sometimes leads to increased confidence about, well, maybe I'll try that one, you
Yeah,
know?
that's
And
exactly. No,
that's the
that's a
point
great
of it.
approach. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just, one, you can build confidence, and some people might do all three progressively, and some people might just have to stick with the one that is a little less intense, so people
Exactly.
can be wherever they are. That I love
That's
that
it.
process.
Yeah. When I tell people all levels are welcome, it's not blah, blah, because I know it's a lot of blah, blah on a lot of the channels. It's not. All levels are welcome.
Yeah.
But those with chronic concerns, that's their home.
Yeah.
Got it?
Well,
That's
no, it's
their number
awesome.
one.
So
Thank
there's
you. I
the
appreciate that.
free content, that people can engage in. And then if they need a little more guidance, there's also that option too for the actual sessions and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And they can find me if they need to reach out to me directly. There is a contact form on my website, so they can
Awesome.
reach me from there.
Yeah, no, well, it's so inspiring to talk to you. And I wonder, as we're wrapping up, first of all, I want to thank you just for being here,
Mm,
and just, I guess, for your courage to keep showing up
thank you.
for yourself and for what you believe in and for others, helping, those in the aging parts of our life, that are going beyond 50 and above, to like live fit, healthy, active lives. I love how you've showed up for your own, I guess, challenges and kept moving forward, and and dared to like live a lifestyle that was ahead of your time, really, because I think over time being plant-based and vegan will be much more the norm, but
Mhm.
you did it way before it was. You also were fit and active before it was the norm for women, to be in that role as a personal trainer. So,
I want to share something with you and your audience, if I might. I can't tell you what it's like. I am a video provider for strength training and yoga videos to Feel Fabulous Over 40 and Timmery Hagen Burgers, the Foodie Bar Way of Life. With Feel Fabulous Over 40, we do monthly live Zooms. There have been times when in the gallery, I have seen people in bed with weights on their backs, but lifting weights,
wow,
females. There have been times where I've seen um, women with oxygen masks on and
wow.
lifting weights, concurrent, people in wheelchairs lifting weights. So I'm telling you that there is a way to claim your body, that it's not always a sense of, oh, it's just out of my control.
I love that. I'd worked with people with chronic pain early in my psychology career, and there was a physical therapist involved. And that part was so important for people to start to see like what you can still do, even if you have physical challenges or
Exactly.
limitations, or just simply even aging.
Yes,
So,
yes. To see a woman who had a double mastectomy
mhm,
and she returned to strength training with me. And I was like, I'm going to have to do something here and I have to see how she handles this. And I put her on a bench on her
mhm,
back with weights like this,
mhm,
working a pec fly. And it's all about
mhm.
this area. And I'll never forget this woman. This was about 25 years ago. Okay. And she looked at me, her face, she just lit up. And my hair is going up on my arms here. And she just looked at me and she said, I said, what? And she said, and she burst out crying and said, I feel my chest muscles. It was the first time since her double mastectomy. You
Mm,
see what I'm saying? You
mhm.
can reclaim yourself. It might be a different self. That's okay.
Yeah.
But understand that no and I can't doesn't always have to be part of the vocabulary.
Mm. Wow. Well, thank you. And any final words that before we wrap up that you'd want to share? I know we covered a lot, so.
You can do it.
Okay.
Just don't quit. Don't quit on
Yes, I
yourself. And
love that.
sometimes you have to take a step back. I've had to take a step back several times in my life, but I didn't quit.
So you can do it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yes, yeah. And finding a way, I think
Find a
your other thing is
way.
it
That's
might
right. It
might be a
is.
slightly different way, but you can do it. So,
Yep, find a way. I learned that from Diana Nyad, at the
mhm,
time that she was 64 years old and swam from Cuba to Florida, or
yes, I
the other
saw the
way
movie
around,
about that.
right? Okay, and it's just like
Yeah.
that's good enough for me. Find a way and make sure you have the proper support system around you. It's these people here, the community for me this way virtually, that was really the biggest help for me in all of this.
Well, so we'll wrap up now. And thank you
Yeah.
so much, Angela, for being
Thank
here.
you,
And
Angela.
thank you, everyone, for listening to the Vegan Transformation. If you found this helpful, I hope you will like the interview and subscribe to the channel and share it with others. And please join me again the next time. Take care and talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.